Charlie Kirk. Let's now speak with Patrick Timms, who's a spokesman for Turning Point UK. Patrick, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We've just had this incredibly interesting press conference. More news about this suspect, Tyler Robinson, a family member apparently hearing a confession mentioning that Tyler Robinson had brought Kirk up at a dinner. We just heard there from the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, that this family member had felt that Tyler Robinson had a lot of hatred towards Charlie Kirk. What's your reaction to what you've just heard?
Well, of course, it's still developing, but I mean, these stories sadly are not uncommon when it comes to this sort of thing. What we would say is, and what I will say now, as someone who met Charlie, I knew him. I met him 6 years ago at a dinner. Charlie was a peaceful man. Okay, he founded Turning Point precisely because he believed that wars, such as they are, should be fought with words and not weapons. And now we find that a weapon has been used to assassinate him, and we are very clear at Turning Point UK, this was a murder. We're not going to say he was killed, he was murdered. Okay, he was assassinated. Our response to that, in principle, firstly, is to say what we don't want to see is reprisals, because that was never what this movement was about. What we do, of course, also here, because developments are still going on. I've got the press conference muted at the moment on my other machine. We now know that we think we know who it was. What we would say is that we think the full force of the law should be deployed in order to bring this person to justice. With that said, also, I will use this as an opportunity to highlight the distinction, because TPUSA and TPUK, we're part of the same franchise, but they are distinct organizations. In Utah, there is the death penalty. In the UK, there isn't. So, if you had branches of Turning Point in France, in Germany, and something like that, I would expect all of those branches to advocate for the principles that apply to their own countries.
So does that mean you're not calling for the death penalty if this person is convicted?
We will call for the full force of the law to be applied in the judgment of an American judge. Okay? What we are not going to do is say, oh yeah, we think he should be killed. We are not saying that. And what we are...
So you're not advocating for the death penalty now, no. But if that's what a judge finds in America and that's what the sentence is, you'll support it?
Support it is a bit strong. We will go with whatever they do. At the end of the day, what we don't want is to see violence rewarded with violence. In this country, and this, as I say, is a distinction with TPUK, we are in a different country. We don't have the death penalty. We don't actually advocate for that sort of thing. Our position is essentially neutral, but to defer to the judgment of those of others in the country in which the offence was committed.
And Patrick, just before we go to the news, just tell us a wee bit about plans for the vigil tonight.
Yes, so there will be a vigil tonight at 6 p.m. It will be in Whitehall, just opposite Downing Street. Mustering from 6 p.m. From 7 p.m. There will be speeches, and from 8 p.m., well, whenever it goes dark, basically, it will be a candlelit vigil, and anyone is welcome.
Okay. And just finally, before I let go, I mean, if there are counter protesters that come along, and I, this is somebody who's very close to you, and this is a terrible murder, as you say, and I think that is the right word. But of course, free speech was at the heart of Charlie Kirk's project. If people come along and counter protest that, how will you feel about that?
Well, at the end of the day, Charlie founded this movement precisely because he believed in free speech. And the TPUK branch of the Turning Point movement will absolutely espouse those values as well. If people want to come along and say they think it's a good idea that a man has lost his life and a wife has lost her husband and two children will now grow up without a father, if that's what people want to come along and do, well, they are welcome to do it. But it's clearly not our position.
All right. Well, look, Patrick, thanks very much for joining us. That's Patrick Timms, who is a spokesman for Turning Point UK.